And I'll just say this. One of our challenges that we've noticed in the ecosystem, to no fault of anyone yet, is not having that benchmark success or series of benchmark successes, which we believe are starting to happen with the group that are about to come on. We tend to have to go to capital from real estate moguls and people in traditional distribution and consumer goods and such like that. And you're then trying to sell someone who has been in this traditional space, probably 60, 70 years old, the idea of technology, which is naturally challenging, right? It will be challenging anywhere. That's not a matter of just the Caribbean. So what we really need is that the gentlemen that I'm going to introduce now are able to carry things forward once they experience their own exits. And I just want to point to, we did have a young entrepreneur, Kellyanne Bethel. We always try to go for inclusivity and ensure, gender balance and representation. Unfortunately, Kellyanne is having some pretty bad connectivity issues in her hometown, so she's unable to make it. But I'm pleased to jump into a fundraising session with a group of entrepreneurs who I'm very proud to have here, all of whom have raised some capital and will tell us about their journeys. And fortunately, all of whom are spread in some different territories and across different industries. So I expect some cool perspectives to be shared. So I'm looking at my screen. I'm just going to go in order. I'm seeing Adrian Dunkley from Star Apple. I'm seeing Demiban Diaz from Hyperion. Demiban is based in Puerto Rico. Adrian based in Jamaica. Zwedi Hewitt from Trinidad and Tobago as well. So Zwedi, please join. Aldwin Wayne from WePay, Trinidad and Tobago, and Kieran Mohammed from Medal. So we're just going to dive into this. I'll take each panelist. I'll take each panelist one at a time. Adrian, welcome. We would have shared the stage last year at the JCS Summit, where you shared some of your experience with TBR and some of your overall experience, having seen what I think is a game changer. And everybody who I'm going to talk to today has a point that is a game changer, right, when it comes to fundraising. You were able to raise capital from a large media conglomerate in Jamaica. I want you to tell us about it very quickly in terms of what you think got you there. But what I want to share is that this is a large media conglomerate that has been around for a long time, that doesn't have a reputation for having done what they did with you. So we want to understand how you were able to get a traditional company to think differently.
All right. Thanks, Kurt. Hi, everyone. Yeah, it was not easy. Let's start with that. But they actually started approaching them as just a client. The idea was to fully understand what their issues were, what their difficulties were, and how their current strengths could be further developed based on what we were offering to start with. So initially it was, okay, let's just discuss and see what you're trying to do, what's going on around the world. And if you think you're not where you should be, we can get you there effectively and at a low cost. Pretty much ROIs will be access to some data, and we'll provide some value from that. Started around them actually being willing to invest, and from there it was beyond the due diligence, the meetings, all of that stuff, providing the financials and projections. Every step of the way, it was reminding them that we can provide this value to you, therefore we can provide this value to any other company in the region and the world. So it just makes sense to jump on board and support us in this journey. And it took months, a lot of back and forth, a lot of pushing and pulling, but they eventually realized, okay, this is worth the investment, and you really made them feel as if they were getting a bargain for what they're investing in. So you provide a valuation, you say, okay, this is what it's worth over 5-10 years. I'm going to give you at a discounted rate. Plus, I'll give you some services attached to that. And yeah, worked for us, and we're gonna do a second round of funding, and we're trying the same approach again. So that goes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very interesting approach, Adrian, and I'm going to take it to somebody else, but I just want to, for those who are listening, share, one of the things that I think doesn't happen in the region often enough is this level of kind of diversity around how people look at fundraising, but also how corporates look at supporting entrepreneurs, because we tend to be encouraging corporates to understand that, look, you may not be an investor in the traditional sense, right? But you are a large company that adds credibility, etc. There are people out there building products and services that could be valuable to you. You take an approach to supporting them, whether that be investment or allowing them to test their product, etc., in a way that allows you to offer the credibility that you have to these entrepreneurs, while at the same time benefiting from their innovations / participating in their innovation journey. So very impressive, very interesting approach. I'm going to turn it over very quickly to Demiban, who's based in Puerto Rico. And Demiban, I'm not gonna take the opportunity away from you. You will share, should you please, but I'm just going to point to the fact that you've had a pretty successful, relatively large seed round that I believe is unlike what you typically see in the market, right? So you will determine if you want to say the number. But what I found interesting about your raise is Hyperion has a pretty interesting product that it is bringing to the fore, but Hyperion's product was not launched at the stage when this capital was sewn up, right? And to me, that is another shift in the market that we are hoping to see, where entrepreneurs are able to capitalize their businesses, well before getting to that stage necessarily of full market traction and, on investors being able to measure every component of it. So tell us a bit about that part of your journey, please.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for the introduction. So everybody, just to be clear, we were able to raise 1.5 as a pre-seed, pre-launch, pre-revenue. But initially, our first target was 750K for a raise. And the opportunity that we saw is that at least in Puerto Rico, banking is about 5 years behind the United States. And there's a huge movement about creating more entrepreneurs, more businesses, and bringing more other companies to the island. And we noticed that the process of starting a business in Puerto Rico was quite hard, complex. And we also saw that all the things that a small business owner needs to do to have everything set up, still very complex. And we saw huge opportunity to simplify that. And the thing is that as a first mover, I think that's one of the things that attracted the investor. And we pitched to United States investors, even in Latin America and Puerto Rico. And all the investors that we actually got in the round went for Puerto Rico. And something that I noticed is that all of us come from small islands, small markets. It's hard to sell a startup when you're initially focused on a small market, no matter how big the problem is. United States investors are used to a market in the billions, a lot of customers from the United States. But my narrative was, I can go to US, but I have this problem in Puerto Rico that if I solve it to you, I'm still gonna have it. I wanna solve it here, I best here. And finding the right investor that really feels the same pain as you, I wanna fix the same problem, and they get why you're so committed on first solving in your small market. It's key, because they see that this problem that is in your small region, it can be replicated in different areas. That's the opportunity that I saw, and I saw, but I say, I have to do it first where I really know the market. And so initially it was hard to get, be completely honest, I was doing pitch for 3 months, no soft commitment initially. And then on the last 2 month stretch, you got a couple of angels that say, I believe, I really understand the problem. Then the big investors start to coming back. Once you have a couple of angels that gonna pay reasonable money, 100K, the other ones start saying, okay, there's an opportunity that I might be missing. And when we got to a point that we got the 750 and they were more into the details, they just wanted to give us more money because they saw that as a first mover, there's challenges that I might not know. And they were willing to say, hey, let's put more capital. So if there are any regulations that you need to go or more marketing spend, really help us go through. So in summary, find an investor that really believes in the market. No matter how small it is a huge problem, and some other market might have it. And when they see that and understand it, they're gonna invest.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Demiban. And I just want to share with everyone that's present that, you know, all the entrepreneurs that we're speaking to are people who have participated in our program. As we mentioned in the beginning, and we always kind of sit on, we don't take credit for Adrian's success, Demiban's success, or any of the successes that will be described. After, all we take claim for is that we try to create this foundation and this space wherein, you know, what we're really saying is, to the point of the discussion with Nick earlier, we live in a market that lacks an ecosystem. So you're challenged to find minds to kind of pick on and get information from and gain insight from, etc. And so startups struggle to find visibility with people and organizations that not only want to understand them, but have the skill set and the capacity to truly understand them. And so at TBR Lab, what we aim to do is give some level of that access as a foundation to drive momentum for entrepreneurs to be able to find that for themselves as well, right? So much appreciated, Demiban. I'm going to jump to the next founder, Aldwin Wayne from WePay. Aldwin has been a Tech Beach participant for quite a few years now. So thanks, Aldwin, for constantly supporting us in that way. And thanks also for participating in this session today. So the same context as I've given for Adrian and Demiban, Aldwin's story is entrepreneur from Trinidad. You've raised tens of millions of dollars from institutional investors, which is quite impressive, including some global partners. And you've now embarked on a journey of expansion, much like Demiban just described. You solve your problem at home first, and then you look if you can solve problems elsewhere. So you're now embarking on this journey to expand your offerings to a wider audience beyond the Caribbean shores. You've raised some money to do that. Tell us a bit about that journey, first on conquering some Caribbean investors and then being able to embrace international capital.
Yeah, thanks, good, and thanks everyone for tuning in. I think Demiban hit it on the head. For us, when we started in the Caribbean, our first outside money, meaning outside of friends and families, was a bank, one of the largest banks, right? And I could call the number because it was all over the press. It was like $10 million, that they came with. And the reason that it made sense to the bank is, the proposition wasn't about our island, fixing a problem in our island. The proposition was fixing a problem in all Caribbean islands, and islands that they participate in as a bank and islands that they don't participate in, and to bring that revenue to your bank here in Trinidad. So I guess, what we did was find something that they understand, meet them at their point of understanding, right? We know what the WePay goal was, but the pitch to that bank was simply, hey, you're trying to increase your bottom line. You're seeing the global trend is, banks and fintechs working together. We have this proof of concept. It's been working for about a year in Trinidad. Let's show you the value of this throughout the region, show you the income that you can now have out of countries that you don't even exist in. That value proposition to them was bigger than, opening banks in those countries. So the win that we found or we got was based on the fact that we met the bank or the bankers or the investment bankers at their point of understanding, increasing their bottom line. So as Demiban said, it's going to be difficult if you're just trying to wholesale sell your business to anyone that would listen. You need to focus your effort on finding someone that understands the problem that you're trying to fix, understand the value in the problem that you're trying to fix, and then make sure that you understand what they want to hear and sell them at that point. So that's how we started in Trinidad. You know, got that bank behind us. That gave us credibility. You know, we're a year and a half old. We have the largest bank, you know, putting us out there, giving us all the access that we need, using their networks in, you know, Ghana and Cayman Islands and everywhere. You know, that gave us strength to then go to countries that they don't exist in and use that as, you know, a launching pad for why, you know, bank number 2 in Jamaica. You need to put money into this because this is what bank number 1 did. And, you know, that's how it's going to go. So raising the monies came from this foundation of understanding what the investor that you're trying to sell to, the problem that you're selling makes sense to them. So, you know, I keep mentioning banks and individuals. The value that WePay brings to any country is greater financial inclusion. But because we are not a bank that actually holds funds, we would always need a banking partner. So for a bank, it's a symbiotic relationship because we bring customers to you. You get to hold the funds, your deposits holding increases. And, you know, we have a partner that, you know, wants us to stay with them. So they give us cash. So again, understanding who you're selling to, understanding the value proposition, you know, it goes a long way to winning that that investor over. You know, I'm proud to say, you know, in 2 countries, we are 2 for 2. You know, we haven't struck out yet, right?
Yeah.
And that's our investment through the Caribbean. Could have hinted to what our newest venture is. It's actually part of the WePay's roadmap, but you know, we call it a different name because we are now in a new market. But it's still all along part of the 10-year plan of creating a Caribbean settlement network. The goal was to start off in the Caribbean, get that solution that gives people, you know, comfort in the brand, comfort in knowing that this company works. And now we're in phase 2 where we're expanding into the United States, and we focus on the diaspora market. You know, the remittance market is a $20 billion market that, you know, is controlled by foreign companies. You know, our goal is now to get into that diaspora market, you know, heavily in New York, Atlanta, Miami, all those metro areas, urban areas in the top cities, and put a product there that's focused on Caribbean people that has connectivity to the Caribbean through our WePay platform. So when we went about raising funds, you know, we compared ourselves to existing neobanks, right? And I'm, you know, just giving you, you know, what our pitch was built around. Our pitch was 18 pages, and we got over $10 million, right? We focused on neobanks that's in the market. There's a neobank called Daylight, which is a neobank geared to the LGBTQT community. There's a neobank called Cheese, which is geared to the Asian community. There's a neobank called Fair, which is geared to the Muslim community. You know, and our pitch was quite simple. There's no neobank geared towards the Caribbean diaspora. And the Caribbean diaspora, the immigrants from the Caribbean, makes up the 2nd largest migrant population in the US, only after Mexico. We make up 10.3% of that migrant population. So we're saying the 2nd largest population don't have a neobank that's geared towards them. And the migrant populations contribute $1.3 trillion to the US economy. Whoever get that market, they get it. And that's pretty much our, you know, wind up on pitch. And
yeah. All right, that's beautiful, Aldrin, and I think everyone here will resonate with that. And you know, I just want to share the points you made. Aldrin participated in a lunch we hosted in Miami last week, as TBR is now looking to expand into Miami and into that ecosystem, using it as a real leverage point to connect the Caribbean with broader markets. But you know, this narrative of the idea that you are missing out on the Caribbean is very powerful. And I feel like for years, us as Caribbean entrepreneurs have struggled to get out in front of a message like that. We've sold, well, let me not say we, but people have sold a message of need as opposed to opportunity. And now is the time for us to start saying to folks, look, there's something here that you're missing out on. Come and take advantage of it, right? The other thing that I just wanted to point to that Aldrin mentioned is matches up with Demiband's story as well, and actually agents as well. I think you'll see this across investor trends all the time, is appealing to your investors' self-interest, right? We often go trying to sell ideas to people on the basis of what we want to achieve, thinking that they're going to this, mega success that we're proposing, not realizing that what people really are going to buy into is, how can this help me? And you start to look at the various things that they will then measure as quote unquote help, right? Whether that is growth for their portfolio, some kind of growth for their business, solving a direct problem that they're having internally that they just can't seem to figure out. That's why some very successful entrepreneurs are people who are birthed in the corporate world, because they see inside and then they go and solve a problem for them. Jump into our next entrepreneur, Zwedi Hewitt, who has taken a slightly different strategy, but I'm sure, Zwedi, you've again appealed to the investor's self-interest somehow. So Zwedi, last year, you officially launched your platform, Luhu. Zwedi is based in Trinidad and Tobago, and you found your first footing when it came to capital in Silicon Valley, right? Again, as I've said to everyone so far, we're speaking game changers right now. So Zwedi is not the first, one of few entrepreneurs who have managed to go into Silicon Valley and raise some capital. Tell us a bit about that story and journey and where you're heading.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for tuning in as well. Well, you are right. I took a bit of a different approach as it relates to raising capital. So just going back a couple of years, so when I started, which was 2018, and I had an idea. I mean, my background was in sports. I was an athlete down to Trinidad. I studied communications at Baylor University. So literally, I had no. I am exactly what you hear right now in the Caribbean, where you hear someone saying, "I'm going to build an app." I have a lot of talk with a lot of people now. That was literally my approach. I'm going to build an app based off an idea that related to the experience I had in life, right? So my approach was first to really build a network. So understanding Trinidad, understanding the Caribbean, I know it would have been tremendously difficult for me to get support in terms of bringing this app to life. 2018, I couldn't really find a developer or coder or even a good advisor to bring this idea into reality. So I shipped out. I went to Manhattan. I spent before COVID, I spent about half of each year, either in Manhattan, Boston, or California, literally just networking, trying to understand the tech space, because I realized, on my first trip, I realized that the future was going to be in tech, and that was the next industry. My former business was involved in, our family have a sports and technology business. So I figured now might be a good time for me to enter the technology market. So my approach was really just a network, connect with individuals who would have given me advice at first. I literally just started asking for advice. And that snowballed. So it snowballed to where I was able to get in front of investors, impact investors at the UN headquarters in Manhattan, where the chef would have invited me. So some of these back-end sort of scenarios just position me in places to meet the right people. Eventually, somewhere through the pipeline, someone told me, hey, there's a guy called Tim Draper in California who you should go check out. He invests in ideas such as this. And what you would need is an early stage investor who can support you, not only just with financing, but connect you with good advisors and good resources to scale this idea successfully. So, so I figured, hey, yeah, why not? So I had across Silicon Valley, and this was to participate in an entrepreneurship program founded by that said guy, Tim Draper, who is an investor, literally a legendary investor in the Silicon Valley Bay Area. I think his granddad invented VC. He has made early investments in over 35 now plus unicorn companies, early invested in Skype, SpaceX, Tesla, and a bunch of them. So I participated in this program first virtually of 70 startups. We was one of the top 10, and we got the opportunity to present it directly to Tim Draper. And he figured that there was some interest, invited me across the living session in Silicon Valley. I went last year. So this was in 2021 in the midst of the pandemic. Went across to California, participated in a 6-week program, entrepreneurial program, where they do invest, right? Interestingly enough, Tim Draper himself really likes what we're doing. However, this market, exactly as Mr. Diaz said, the Caribbean market was just tremendously overlooked, right? He said, Zwedi, you know what? I don't have any partnerships, any funding opportunities, any investment opportunities in the Caribbean at present. So the first goal for him was really to understand exactly what the region has to offer, what it can bring to the table. So we spent a bit of time actually just bridging that relationship, understanding, and that really sparked a level of interest in terms of newfound insight for guys within the Silicon Valley area to see investable opportunities in the Caribbean. So they may not be what they identify as many unicorn opportunities, but they saw understanding now that the Caribbean is potentially right for, you could get a couple hundred time return investments within the Caribbean right now. So with that opportunity, being able to participate in a program developed within Draper, another VC actually showed interest before Draper did it. So in VC called Plug and Play, one of the investors was following my progress on LinkedIn. She was an investor, is an investor at Plug and Play Tech Center. While I was in Silicon Valley participating in the Draper program, investor from Plug and Play invited me out to coffee to meet with me to figure out exactly. And actually, Plug and Play offered us all respect. They came on board as leading our investment round. So we were raising at the $3 million valuation. They are committing to invest $100K into our push on. They wrote us a $25K check to start with instantly, very quick. So, but they committed. So they committed to a $25K check very easily. And what they wanted was to be the first investor in this particular round before other players came in. So with that being said, I believe that now, more so than ever, with the movements of guys like Alvin Wade and the connections that folks like Kyle Maloney and you guys are doing at Tech Beach, there is an interest, right, in the Bay Area for seeing the Caribbean businesses as investable opportunities, especially post-pandemic, because from a wealthy individual perspective like Draper, the conversation we would have had was we were standing on a beach, right? So he had this insane 5-week program and he spent 5 days camping on his estate with very little resources. He has a 1,200-acre estate in California. And at the end of it, we were on a beach, and it was an ugly beach in California. I think it was the world's most dangerous beach. I said to him, Tim, you know, the Caribbean have nice beaches. We have good Wi-Fi, good infrastructure. Why do you come across to the Caribbean and do some business? He was like, you know what? That makes more sense than heading all the way across to Asia sometime. And he said to me, Zwedi, write me an email for me to understand a bit about the Caribbean. The next day, I wrote him an email just highlighting what the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago has to offer, present as an investable opportunity. And he was like, you know what? Let's do some work in the Caribbean. Through that, we are now actually, I raised funding for a second venture. Tim Draper actually appointed us, me the Caribbean ambassador for his 12 venture funds. And he has an organization called Draper Startup Hubs, where they build entrepreneurial ecosystems and digital hubs across the world. They're in 18 locations. We have the license now to set up across the Caribbean. We raised seed funding from Draper. I mean, now raising a $5 million round essentially to build digital hubs. I look forward to working as well with guys like Tech Beach. So again, there's new opportunity. I would welcome if you have a technology business. You can head across to the area. It has a lot of capital. We know that money is moving to Miami someday, but there's still a lot of liquid cash sitting in the Bay Area. And now there's a greater understanding. And post-pandemic, the Bay Area, again, they see there's new life within the Caribbean. So I welcome you guys to don't overlook it. Typically, you may shy away from it given that they may think it's too big, but no, that's a place right now. So you can go across there and actually raise capital and then leverage that capital you raised in the Silicon Valley area to raise capital in the regional market. So we leverage raising Silicon Valley funding to then raise funding through local financial institutions. So that was our sort of our plan as well, because the credibility that you can get from raising funding in Silicon Valley is sort of unmatched. So I think that's a good strategy, and I welcome it. And then anyone who, I welcome to share connections, make introductions as well too. So by all means.
Okay, awesome stuff there, Zwedi. And I'll have to say, clearly that's a story that requires a couple of things. Just for everyone listening, I think there is a requirement to have resources in some way, but there's also a requirement to be able to embrace sacrifice, right? And I find myself very often reflecting on my journey, Kyle's journey, our combined journey, and doing the kind of things, that you're mentioning, right? There was a time we were kind of just scouring the earth, trying to tell this story of possibilities in the Caribbean, heading out to Silicon Valley, New York, Boston, Europe, wherever anybody would listen to these stories of possibility. And it's an interesting time, as I pointed to earlier, this idea of entrepreneurs in 2013 in Africa raising only $13 million in venture capital, and now we're looking at them raising over $4 billion in 2021. We see that trajectory really just starting in the Caribbean, right? And it starts with everybody who has presented here so far, but the promise is brilliant, because what is starting to happen is that we're having benchmark stories where locals and regional players can start to understand that money is going into this space, and then people from the outside start realizing that there's another place to go. The beauty of the Caribbean, which I think anybody listening can try to include in their story as well, is based on where we are, you can get a much bigger bang for your buck, as I think even Adrian pointed to, than you might find in other markets. Demi-Bond, not discounting anything, but Demi-Bond's raise could burn out in a year just trying to hire engineers in somewhere like Silicon Valley, right? Trying to get office space, etc. In a market like ours at the moment, because we know this will change once more and more capital starts coming into this space, but at the moment in the Caribbean, $1.5 million is good foundation capital that can give you a run rate that is much longer than you'd find in some of these more developed spaces. Those are the kind of things that investors end up wanting to understand and hear, but that story is not told often enough. So we try to tell it, but we're encouraging others to do the same. I'll jump to the last entrepreneur in this session, Kiran Mohammed. Just checking if Kiran is connected. Okay, there you are. And so Kiran is based in Trinidad. He'll tell us a bit about his startup Medal. I think Kiran sits in a slightly similar space to Demi-Bond in terms of the story when it comes to where you were in the product cycle and being able to raise a substantial amount of capital. But in your case, Kiran, it's an institutional investor that got involved. Again, one of the things that people who we talk to sometimes don't fully understand is on our end, again, we're not the entrepreneurs. We don't claim to be, and we don't claim to take stake for what they've achieved with their company. So as you might see so far during this session, I've tried to keep on my end their information confidential. They then tell you, if they so choose, where they've gotten money, how much, etc. When it's public news like Adrian's story, with RJR in Jamaica, or in Aldwin's case, Republic Bank, we're happy to say the names, but still, when you're raising money and building a business from scratch, oftentimes certain information remains private. So I think Adrian hasn't shared in any public domain, for example, how much money he's raised from RJR, nor has RJR as a media outlet done the same. So just tapping on that for you to be able to jump in, Kiran, tell us a bit about what you've achieved so far.
Sure. Thank you very much, Kirk Anthony. I think one of the things, and it's been really interesting hearing some of the other founders, that there's definitely been a bit of a trend here. And that was very much true for us, is that many of us have actually raised our seed rounds or further rounds from strategic investors versus VCs. And I think that that's a bit of a virtue of there being very limited access to VCs in the region, right? And so the types of people you end up talking to are larger corporates, are institutional investors. But I think also what we have in common with certainly Adrian and Aldwin is that we actually didn't go to them for investment. So we've raised about in total about 2.25 US for our seed round from a regional insurance company. And what was interesting there, and I think Demi-Bond had a similar experience as well, is that sort of we went to them actually, and to tie into what you were saying about giving them value for self-interest, right? We actually went to them as a healthcare company. The people who pay for healthcare are insurance companies, right? So we went to the insurance company, and what we actually pitched them was that medication non-compliance, which is a problem that we're solving, costs them up to 10% of their health claims, and we can bring that down. And they got so excited about that they said, we actually want to be part of this. We want to be part of this journey. So I think definitely that's one of the key aspects here. Being able to source investment, not necessarily by just pitching folks for investment in your company, but by being able to give broader value to their company. Because actually it turned out in our and that helped our valuation too. Because we were able to say, okay, you're not just looking at this, the value that is going to be created for you is not just the value from our company, but actually the value that we are going to create for you by your working with us. If you give your 150,000 customers to us, you are actually going to save way more in your core business, which is, I mean, this is a $1 billion US company, which is way more in the short term than even your ROI on your direct investment. So yeah, so that was definitely one thing, but also to tie into what Zwedi said, and to your remarks about, you know, having to pitch to folks who are unaccustomed to tech, right? In our case, we were lucky. We had a couple of people who were very sort of pro-tech involved. And by the way, there's no accident that the insurance company that we were working with is ultimately Jamaican, right? Because I'll be flat, and this is not very diplomatic, but Jamaica is about 1 million miles ahead of Trinidad in this respect, right? In this case, right, what really helped to kickstart that was international recognition before that, having the IDB come in and we got a relatively small grant from them, about 150K, but it was through a very competitive competition. And that really helped to sort of give a lot of credibility. Sometimes I actually, and I think Zwedi could probably attest to this too, it's almost bizarre. And you too, Kirk, Anthony, I'm sure you've had this experience where you actually go abroad to people who are involved in running much bigger organizations than anything in the Caribbean, and you actually get treated with much more interest than folks back home. So that is one of that definitely being able to go abroad and then pivot back with that, and then you can definitely get that. The third thing I'd just like to say is the role of multilateral organizations, right? Typically, this is not something that anyone in tech, certainly in the United States or Europe, ever really thinks about, right? The idea of a multilateral organization like the World Bank, like the IDB, like the IFC, these are things that they're just not seen as being players in the space. But the reality is these organizations have vast amounts of capital, like insane amounts of capital, and also a real interest in impact. And being able to, certainly the IDB has been tremendously supportive with us. But again, we've had to work with multilateral organizations simply because we don't have a VC ecosystem. Mm-hmm. But there are some advantages to this. And I think this is where we in the Caribbean can capitalize on. Actually, we have more access to a multilateral organization. We have more access to someone at the IDB or someone at the World Bank or someone at the IFC actually than someone in Silicon Valley. They have actually less access to those kinds of organizations. Yes. And those organizations also have governmental and diplomatic clout. So they can help a lot in terms of when you're talking about regulatory sandboxes, when you're talking about influence government officials, everyone takes a meeting if they introduce it. So I think those are the kind of just three things just wanted to share.
Thank you, Kieran. So I just want to close with this actually, Kieran, you raised an important point. And everyone here, like I've said, participated in the TBR Lab program, much appreciated. You all would have given as much value to us as we feel we've been able to give to you. You're going to be hearing, this is to the audience, but you're going to be hearing from others soon in terms of some of our partners, the resources that they present, etc. I think some of the entrepreneurs here have benefited from that, but what we aim to be is a kind of strategic, I'm going to say pillow, in terms of voices and brains that the entrepreneurs are able to pick on. And it's not just myself or Kyle or Eric, who you heard from earlier, but it's people based in Canada through our partnership with the DMZ and folks in the US and such like that. So I'm just going to ask each person, and I know Aldwin may have had to run, and Zwedi, if you're still there, to just tap on quickly, starting with Adrian again. And guys, 30 seconds, please, because we do have to run to the next person. But not necessarily just about TBR Lab. Why is a program like this important to an entrepreneur? Because sometimes that's missing for folks. And this is very unique to tech, obviously. Accelerator programs are unique to tech. So why is a program like this important to entrepreneurs? And you can speak about value in terms of resources, networks, etc. Just your big point, 30 seconds each. Let's close out. Adrian.
First thing is it's a safe space. Usually you start your company and you're either pitching to family members who may be not necessarily objective, or to a company that is there to gut your valuation. So having access to colleagues in the same position as you to pitch ideas, as well as persons who have decades of experience, just to be very open and honest about your product, the value prop, extremely important. Second, definitely the value. We have fully utilized the tech services that have been provided. They made a big impact for us. And then third, just having access to that perspective outside of yourself. So what's a good idea versus a bad idea versus no idea at all? Those three things I think were amazing for the program. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Demiban.
Yeah, so in my case, I would say one of the really good benefits is access to their network, not just other companies, like I just mentioned, also like people that could invest, people that could be partners. You can join forces and share ideas. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do so many things. Any support you can get is useful, like anything that you can delegate. For example, Eric Sornier helped me a lot. A couple of things for pitching or for partners, that's really gave me a lot. Just sometimes a simple tip can give you a week that you may waste in something else. The other part, I will say, like you mentioned, Equine, support. Like in my example, I offer a B2B kind of service. So you have other companies that may use your product, and you're just trying to get them and understand their feedback, if they're going to use it, what do you need, also helps you to validate your product. Getting that product validation with other startups helps you a lot. And also, confidence. You need to always be confident about your product, your company, your team. Sometimes you feel that you're struggling, that you don't know what the heck you're doing. You think everything's going bad. And when you talk to other entrepreneurs, it's the same from everybody. So it just like push through. It's part of the process, and just keep hustling.
Okay, awesome. And I want to keep us tight on time. We've actually been doing well. So I'm going to invite Maria Mercado from Visa to come up next. But Kiran, 30 seconds. If you could just give us your spiel.
Yeah, I would just say also, don't underestimate the value of peers. And I think that's what Kirk, you and Kyle have really brought together. It's so fantastic, just the amount of energy I'm even getting from this session. But also advice, also, when you're crying in the shower because you have maxed out all your credit cards just before you've raised everything, people you can talk to, right? I think don't underestimate. Yes, of course, getting investor access, that's all wonderful, absolutely. But definitely being in touch with our peers, and that's what you've really created. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all very much. We appreciate the endorsement and appreciate your participation. And one thing that I will say, we keep in touch with the entrepreneurs. We try to add continuing support as much as we can. If we can create connections, they reach out to us. We happily do it, etc. So, when you join our program, you don't just join this 8-week thing, right? With all the benefits that they mentioned, but you also join a community, right? And that community aims to continuously add value as much as reasonably possible / unreasonably possible in some instances. So guys, thank you very much. Jump into another segment really quick, and I invite you guys to stay and hear about this, because some of these are new developments for us. But our partners, right? We wouldn't be here without our partners. And one of the things that we haven't discussed yet is the value that we add through these relationships, oftentimes with companies that don't really have presence in the Caribbean, and we're able to then offer them an outlet. So I'm going to invite Maria Mercado from Visa to speak about the relationship that we're building with Visa to allow entrepreneurs access to a global powerhouse in the finance space and the technology space overall. Maria, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kirk. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Like Kirk mentioned, my name is Maria Mercado. I'm part of the Fintech team for Visa Latin America and the Caribbean, based out of Miami. And today I did want to go over, I'm going to share my screen here real quickly. I did want to go over a couple of slides that we prepared for you guys, going over some of our programs, how we can, together with TBR, provide some really awesome support for entrepreneurs and some of the startups that are currently members. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right in. As always, notice of confidentiality. Just remember that any research companies, logos that you see on here are not directly related or owned by Visa. Firstly, and let me just hide here. Firstly, I want to talk about fintech expansion in LAC and Caribbean. So what exactly is driving this boom that we've all been seeing specifically in the last couple of years, right? So I would say definitely here inequality levels, digital adoption across the region, growth of entrepreneurs, and as always, continuing to work on some of those regulations within the space. In terms of investing, I mean, here you can probably see some familiar faces, but we have over 150 firms investing in Latin America, specifically in some of those more active markets. However, we've definitely seen those firms being even more active in 2021. In fact, we raised a record of, I think here almost 8.5 in funding throughout LAC. So here you can see a huge kind of growth year to date, right? I think this was back in October. So it's really good to see, that activity being matched up with some of the numbers that we definitely are tracking within the funding space. In fact, I did want to highlight some key takeaways specifically in the Caribbean. So here we have Affinity, as well as BIT, some of those specific ones in the Caribbean that are even, highlighted in some of, for example, here CB Insights research that we definitely track from a Visa standpoint. So moving forward to expansion and how the region is just seeing that, I want to talk a little bit about how Visa thinks about fintech and why fintechs, startups in general, right, are a priority to Visa. So as we know, we have consumer demand, right? So consumers expect, a very fast and personalized, easy way to be able to adopt that technology. We're seeing a lot of evolution in the payment space, as well as just in the technology space, again, alluding back to that technological adoption that the region is continuing to see. And as always, innovation, funding, ways to scale, gain acceptance, and all of that definitely drives the priority or why we're continuing to partner with companies from the Visa standpoint. So engaging and partnering with startups is definitely, we've kind of broken it down with 3 specific routes. Number one, the more traditional kind of like the easiest way for you to think of how a company can engage with Visa is issuing a credential. So whether it be a digital or physical plastic card, definitely, the more, like I said, traditional way. Secondly, we have technology capability partners. So that second route, maybe partners that don't have that specific collaboration or that traditional collaboration with Visa, which is a credential, but have technologies, APIs, solutions that our clients or even Visa as a company can leverage and use. And then lastly, something that Visa shares as a company on a global level is continuing to expand acceptance throughout the world. In terms of fintech engagement, we have kind of narrowed down our approach, so to say, to 4 or so steps. Number 1 would be scouting. So we have a couple of programs underneath scouting. One of them would be webinars or participation in summits like the one that we're having today through TBR. We also have the Visa Everywhere initiative, which is something that I will get into in a couple of slides. Ecosystem engagement overall is kind of where we see that scouting coming in. Then we have incubation and acceleration. Here we also kind of anchor ourselves with our partners as well. Again, alluding to TBR, participating in mentorship, having a close partnership with you guys, being able to have that reach in the Caribbean, and again, really leverage a lot of the work that our partners are doing to be able to work together. Then we go into partnerships, right? So we scouted a company. They're attracted to us. We're definitely moving forward in collaboration. We're kind of accelerating them, incubating them, working with our partners, maybe even narrowing down exactly how we want to collaborate with the company. And then we'll go into kind of a partnership approach, right? Where we narrow down exactly what we want to do, whether it be that issuing for the initial route that I just mentioned, or maybe more of a technology capability partnership. And then much further down the line, we do have an investments approach. Part of my team is the Visa Venture side. Primarily managed by our vice president, and it is a bit more strategic. Again, it comes further down the line after we've signed a partnership, but it is there, and it's something that even more so this year we are being a bit more active in. Coming to the Visa Everywhere initiative, and I think that this is, where I want to have the most emphasis. The Visa Everywhere initiative is something that we do on a global level. We've had over 7,000 startups participate, over 2.5 billion in capital being raised, and over 300 finalists and 100 winners. So the program launched in 2015 on a global level. It landed in Latin America and the Caribbean in 2017, and we have been running it since then. It has touched over 100 countries in the world. So a really, really good global scope of being able to understand the startup community in each of the regions. And this says 21, I need to change to 22, but this is our third year. I lost a year with the pandemic. I believe it's our second year now of a fully global virtual program. So we have partnered with TechCrunch, which gives our startup participants a really good and strong channel for external engagement, as well as being part of the Visa Everywhere initiative, right? So some key dates to highlight, and I will work with TBR Labs to send over to you guys a lot more details probably next week once we open applications, but we will be opening February 7th, so that's this coming Monday, and we will be closing applications March 18th. So once I share some of those links, a couple of different assets with TBR, I would really, encourage you guys to apply. If you have any questions to the actual program, we can, you can reach out to me. I'll share contact after this presentation. This year we are having more or less World Cup type of format, where we have 5 finalists from LAC, and then that winner goes all the way to the global finals. So not only will you have, we have the chance to really have a regional scope with a lot of our participants, but we also even want to take it up to global. Okay. Our objective with the Visa Everywhere initiative really is becoming the partner of choice and leveraging the ecosystem, right? So here you can see a couple of our winners since 2017 when VEI landed in LAC. We've had more than 1,300 startups go through the program, everywhere from applicants to semi-finalists, finalists, and even winners. So it's been a really strong program. Within the program, we have an immersion program that is, usually a 2 to 3 week time period where we really accelerate or incubate a lot of our participants or our finalists to this big, huge world of visa that we try to really give them all the knowledge and guide them right through everything that we can for specific collaboration. So again, before I move on, I just want to say I will be providing TBR with a lot of those details for you guys to apply and be able to at least send in an application, and we can move forward with that as well. In terms of ecosystem partnerships, again, TBR does fall in here. Here we're highlighting Finovista, more of a regional player, but our approach is to, or objective is to really participate in each one of the countries, sub-regions that have entities like TBR, Fintech, TT, and anywhere else that we can really, again, anchor ourselves as Visa to be able to get in contact with the members, but also educate, right, the fintech ecosystem and make sure that you guys know that we as Visa are here to collaborate and engage. Real quickly go over this. We had an accelerator in Brazil. Here you can see, I mainly want to highlight the different sectors that we as Visa are able to, engage with. So it's not specific to just payments necessarily. Here we have mobility, we have insurance, we have some retailing, even some other areas. For example, some of these logos might be a little familiar to you guys, but our sector is not only specific to payments, but we do like to understand what's out there in the startup ecosystem. Lastly, I'll highlight Visa Partner Portal, and I really, really encourage you guys to go and explore. You can learn from us. There is a whole learning knowledge area where you can understand the payment ecosystem. You can find a partner, and you can even apply to become a partner. I'll send that link with TBR as well, so you guys are able to just kind of explore that, because it's a huge, huge external asset that we have that's super beneficial for you guys. In terms of that traditional route number one, issuing a Visa credential, we do have a program called the Fintech Fast Track that is specific to smaller startups. It comes with expedited onboarding, startup incentives, and the key one here is reduced requirements. So reduced capital, collateral, and all of that to be able to join the Visa network, of course, with an expert Visa support. This program applies to digital banks, wallets, alternative lending. Again, very, very specific to route number one that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. We also have Fintech Connect. So that's route number two, our program specific to route number two, right? It's connecting technology capability partners with our clients. We come up with exclusive commercial terms, as well as a Visa Ready certification. And here it's that, again, to kind of put it all together for you guys, route number two of those technology capability partners that we have. Here you can see some of them. These are more on a regional level, but we do have some that are sub-regional, managed by the local teams for the specific client needs of those markets. I'll stop there. Thank you so much, TBR and all the members for this space. We do have a fintechlac@visa.com email. TBR, I think it would be great also to connect some of these guys with Jorge, who is more on a local level and knows the ecosystem, in the Caribbean a lot better than maybe I do. But for everything LAC regional, or even Visa Everywhere initiative, we will be sending you guys some resources, but feel free to use the Fintech email for any other kind of inquiries you might have.
Yes, sounds awesome. Thank you very much, Maria. And I just want to invite our next partner, Danielle Bedola, to join us. But I think, Maria, thank you so much for everything you shared there. Really amounts to what we are offering here at TBR Lab, which is access, right? for those who may not quite grasp the context, when you're walking around Kingston, Port of Spain, Bridgetown, etc., you don't just run into people from a company like Visa, which is what you would find in more developed ecosystems, right? People are always able to encounter people who can support them and have access to be able to support them. We lack that in the region, and so we're trying to build that bridge to global opportunities like the ones that Maria just shared. So thank you once again. I'm going to invite another one of our partners, Danielle with AWS, Amazon Web Services. I always say, cloud is the infrastructure of the internet, and AWS is one of the biggest suppliers of that. We love our relationship with AWS. Participants in our program get credits, and if you apply, I'm going to let Danielle speak to how much credits are available, but if you apply to the program even, you get free credits, which AWS has been so generous to offer. So Danielle, I know you won't be presenting as such today, but just share with us quickly, if you may, how AWS is supporting entrepreneurs for us to go forward. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. We're really, really happy and excited to be here with you. I'm partnered up with TechBish. Let me give you like a quick introduction about AWS and how can we help you and your startup. So I'm part of the AWS startups team. Basically, AWS provides all these on-demand delivery, computing power, storage. We have almost 200 services in the cloud that you can leverage to build your own MVP, your own scale your startup. So why a startup choose us is because there's zero upfront costs. You can immediately start like launching your startup like faster, experiment and iterate your product so many times so you deliver the best product for your market and focus on your core business. There are so many startups that are running on us, many unicorns and many startups that you probably are already interacting with. If you're watching a show on Netflix or Slacking or WeWork or Stripe, buying e-commerce, whatever you're doing, probably is on AWS. We also have startups in Latin America, many unicorns that you are familiar with and fintech, health tech. We are industry agnostic and stage agnostic. So it doesn't matter the stage or the industry you're in, we're ready to help you. We are part of the global business development team, and our goal is to help you scale faster and have the credit so you can start building the product and worry less about the infrastructure and all the technology that you need and start building some product for your market. So we partnered up with venture capital and the startup ecosystem, not only in all the region. What we do is we don't invest cash, but we do invest in credits, in virtual. It's a virtual currency, AWS credits. We invest time, we share best practices. We help you navigate AWS within AWS so you can access even more credits, and we help your startup to scale. We also provide this one-on-one technical architecture design and optimization review so you can have a cost optimization, and if you're already on AWS, we can help you like lower your cost and have a better scalable infrastructure. We have so many programs for startups, but the main one is AWS Activate. We're providing $10,000 credits for all participants of TechBish. It's a 2-year early stage program. It's $10,000 credits, and you can access up to 100K. But just for being part of TechBish, you get the 10,000 credits. This is equity free. We don't ask for any like control in your startup. It's just like you just activate the credit and you get it in your AWS console. We will provide the organization ID. If you're interested, you have to ask it just directly to TechBish, and they will provide it to you so you can activate it in your own AWS account. If you're not on AWS, we can, in another cloud, we can help you migrate all your infrastructure to us. We also offer credits for that. So if you're in Google or whatever other cloud you are in, we can help you migrate. We have a specific program for that. We can connect you so you can migrate and your infrastructure to us. Well-architected reviews, those sessions are free sessions, one-on-one with our engineers to help you review your infrastructure, help you have a more scalable infrastructure, so we can also schedule that. We have some startup mentorship, so we can connect you with founders, other founders of our Latin America and senior leaders within AWS, so they can help you scale your startup. We also have connections, AWS connections. We're really for the long run. So we want you to connect with, if you are building on AWS, we want you to connect with everyone that we know. Like that means investors, that mean corporations that probably will ask you for that can be a customer for you, or partnership, whatever you need to scale and grow your startup, we're here to help. Capital Connect, and I think that's really quick presentation. In a nutshell, we're here to help you scale your startup, and we're happy to meet you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Really appreciate it. And just want to share with everyone the same thing as I mentioned about Visa, but maybe even more so in the case of a company like AWS. There's not a significant level of presence in the market. We see that changing based on things that are happening within our ecosystem. But what we really have created here is a base for entrepreneurs to be able to connect with and partner with companies at the scale of a company like AWS. And just for those listening, whether you're an ecosystem builder, supporter, or a entrepreneur, the reality is this is what you compete against, right? AWS is present around the globe. And so what you'll find is that entrepreneurs who you're playing against are building products on top of AWS credits that the company has so kindly been willing to give them. So what we did was we invited them into the Caribbean to look at the opportunity here and said, hey, can we do the same thing in this market? And as Danielle pointed to, you get a minimum of $10,000 US in credits just for being in our program. You get 1,000 credits just for applying to the program. But then there's opportunity for scale based on certain metrics that AWS measures. If they are able to support you, they'll give credits in the tens of thousands to certain companies. So I'm going to leave this partner session now and jump to our next segment. We're going to invite Amanda Spann to moderate this next session with a few of our entrepreneurs again. And Amanda is a great member of our community, wonderful community builder and collaborator. And Amanda, thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. And thank you guys for having me. My name is Amanda Spann. I am a serial app entrepreneur, ecosystem developer. I have built several MVPs. I also run a program called the App Accelerator, where I help people get their first MVP and their first iteration of their app, no matter if they have a technical background or experience working in technology. I'm really happy to moderate this panel today and speak to some really amazing entrepreneurs. I will give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and just do a 1-minute intro and tell you a little bit about themselves as well as their startup. Chloe, should we go first? Or
sure, that's fine. Hi, everyone. I'm Cherie, founder of Rent Your Ride, soon to be Vehicle. We're the Caribbean's first peer-to-peer car renting platform that provides a unique car renting experience without the risk of being uninsured. And so for us, if you're not familiar with peer-to-peer car renting, just think about Airbnb for cars in the Caribbean or Turo for the Caribbean. And so what we're trying to accomplish is we want to get people away from using their cell phones to text family and friends, do you know of anyone that's renting a car? I'm coming down, I need a car to rent, to basically using our app to search for a vehicle, become a member, rent that car, pay for that car all within 15 minutes. So that's what we're trying to accomplish in the Caribbean. And so I'm a lover of numbers, so I provide financial and strategic direction for the company.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Next panelist. Keston?
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was the next one. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be on this panel today. I'll give you a little bit about myself. So, well, you know my name. My company is Allegory, and it is a neuro innovation company. We build and design innovations using neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and data. That's something very good to me. And what we effectively will be, thanks. What we effectively are doing is making mental wellness and student success scalable. So we help people from various industries, all the way from oil and gas to students to corporate different places. It's quite fun and exciting, especially seeing the power of the mind and what it can make it do.
Thank you. Next, site.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Seth Ahmad. I am one of the co-founders of Smart Term Limited. We're an education technology company, so we provide a suite of solutions ranging from school management services to learning management services across the K through 12 school industry. We're based primarily in Jamaica right now, but we actually have a presence in over 13 markets, countries across the Caribbean and North America as well. So I'm excited to talk today. Thank you, everybody, for having me here.
Thank you. And then last but not
Hey guys, my name is Nikolai Jazo. I am the founder of a company called Sphere Marketplace. Sphere, at its core, is a universal affiliate sales tool that enables the everyday person to earn from the referrals that we all make on a daily basis. It allows the everyday person to easily tap into the opportunity to generate revenue from an opportunity that's currently only available to people in the sales space, whether you're an affiliate marketer or a traditional salesperson.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. I assume there's a lot of founders on this summit, within the summit. But we don't want to assume that everyone knows what a minimal viable product is. So just kind of before we get started, by just show in the chat, just chime in if you can. How many people know what a minimal viable product is? Okay, I see some hands from the attendees. All right, awesome. So for those of you who may have not raised your hand and may not know, a minimal viable product is the simplest, most lean iteration of the product that you're ideating on. So the product that you're thinking about building is the leanest product, so you can go out and test it in the market and see if it actually works and if you need to make any changes before you grow and scale. Before we got to get into testing that MVP, well, minimal viable product or MVP, before we get into testing that MVP, we want to talk about validating that idea. So how did you guys know as entrepreneurs that this was the right idea to pursue? And did you pursue anything before you started building your product in way of testing? So was there any tests or experiments that you did that said, okay, I'm going to do this first before I invest any money into building an MVP?
Okay, so I can talk a little bit about that. So before I even got to the MVP process, I did a lot of research. So, you know, the Caribbean obviously is spread out by waters, and there are a lot of islands in the Caribbean. So I literally read the tourism report for 90% of the Caribbean islands. So I did a lot of research to understand how many people were going to the Caribbean, how many people were staying in private homes, who would be kind of like our target audience, and then how many people on average we think would kind of like be, you know, age appropriate and licensed. So we wanted to get an understanding of the market and the numbers that we're dealing with. And then I also reached out to people randomly on Jamaica classified ads who were renting cars at the time to kind of just interview them and to get their perspective on some of the issues that they're having, you know, renting a car, not necessarily having the proper insurance and things like that. So we did a lot of background research to understand the market and kind of like what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I think that was the same. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay, perfect. So that was a similar experience on my end. There was a lot of research that went into the process, but we actually spent about the best part of 2 years, and I don't think that anybody has to do that. It's just because we didn't have the money to build the technology at first. So we went the best part of 2 years working, collecting data, and developing the solution, because customer success was actually really important for us, because once we make sure the customer is successful, they will start selling the business for us, right? And that's actually what we saw starts to happen. So one of the main places that we saw sort of a lot of growth would have been in student success. So helping the students go from 30% to 90%, nobody could gainsay that, right? Everybody's very excited about it, especially prior to that, the students who weren't doing very well. And post that, we said, okay, we have to make this something that's scalable, because we want to give this value to the other people in the parts of the world. So research for sure. I think the other part of it is understanding the kind of value that you're going to create and the importance for other people in our community in the Caribbean and in the developing world to have access to that value. And that was kind of the driving force to get us into moving towards a technological MVP that was automated.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, I wanted to kind of piggyback on that a little bit. You mentioned not having fun a little while to build your MVP, and I know that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. I don't know if anyone else on the panel kind of had that similar experience where, like, I don't know where the money is to come from to build this product. I know I have a good idea. I've done the testing, I've done the research, but now what's next as far as funding the MVP? Can you guys talk about maybe some creative ways that you've gone about strategizing how you would get the money, or you would build the MVP in a way that was less expensive, or kind of in a creative way to make sure that you were able to meet your goal of having a product available without a huge budget?
Yeah, so I was in insurance before, and then I came up with the idea for Sphere, and I had no clue how it was going to be funded, but it had to get done. So what I did was I literally wrote a message on my Facebook asking potential investors to just meet with me for 20 minutes. And I started meeting people, met about 15 people in the first 2 months of conceptualizing and actually putting Sphere down on paper. And thankfully, a few people decided that this was a good venture that they would put some money behind. And yeah, there's no grand plan. A lot of the time from the people that I've spoke with, it's never a grand plan. You just dive in and something tends to work out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for us.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, for us, we had a grand vision. So in terms of what we wanted to do in EdTech, there's a massive vision for what we wanted to achieve. We wanted to bring in AI tools. We wanted to really focus on how to improve teaching and learning outcomes and expand equitable access for students across the board. But when we started out, we had to just take a step back and think about what the core issues are and where the actual problems are for our client base. Now, just to give a little insight, Smart Term started out because myself and my co-founders, we went to college and graduate school in the States. And what we realized there is that there are a lot of tools and resources available to students there that we could have done wonders with had we had access to those kind of resources in the Caribbean. So for us, one of the guiding principles was really our own experience, what we experienced and what we saw and the problems we encountered while we were students in the schooling system here. So we're able to lean on that, get in touch with our clients, and kind of get an idea of how the market had evolved in the time we were in school abroad, and focus on the core functionality and the most important things, the most important problems, the problems that people actually have versus the problems you think you want to solve. And that was a really important part of our journey. And we also had to pivot because then the pandemic happened, and then the core problems that were relevant prior to the pandemic, they were still there, but then other things also became more important. So you have to be mindful of that. You have to be ready to adapt.
And
Now,
just no, I was just going to add a little bit. It's also okay for us. We actually purchased a ready-made platform that had the basic of basic features for peer-to-peer car renting. So that was one of the ways we were able to kind of just stay on the budget while still being able to, get our MVP out there.
Yeah, there's one other thing may I quickly? Yeah, okay. There's one other thing I wanted to add to that very quickly. It is that it's important to follow and track your success, because when we first started off, we started off with, and I tell people the story sometimes, with $250. That's what we started off with. And in our first year, we turned 6 figures, right? So it's important to be able to measure and track your success. I can't say that everybody will have that experience, but there's something called a self-referential system. I'm not going to spend time on that. But the idea is that a system that can take its output as its input has the ability to scale very, very quickly or powerfully. But the trick is to take success as an input and put that back in, because if you take your failures as an input, you're going to grind yourself into unhappiness and failure effectively. So I just want to make sure I said that, because the mindset is really important for you to make your way.
Thank you guys for sharing that, and I'm glad you guys chimed in, because the exact questions I was going to ask you was about building an MVP vouchers, right? So Nicola had, he put himself out there and he got investors. But what does it look like when you're like, okay, I have X amount of money, I have $250. How can I start from where I'm at and build something from there? So thank you guys for sharing that. I'm sure that inspired a lot of people. Make them feel like they can, building on output. So that's a great opportunity to kind of get started by just finding a replica of the thing that you want to build and then making customizations. Customizations cost a lot less than a custom build, right? So I want to talk about what happens after the MVP. You guys have gotten the MVP out in the market. What are your next steps? How did you know that this was the right time to start talking to customers? And what was your approach or strategy for actually reaching out to potential customers once you had a product?
So the way, so we launched our MVP, and I must say it wasn't perfect by any means. It had glitches. It wasn't the best user experience. It was a mess, right? So, but our goal was really to convey the problem that we're solving. And we thought, if we did a good job with that, people will sign up, right? We wanted to demonstrate the future benefits. You'll notice if people stay, then okay, you're doing good. And we also wanted to make sure we get a lot of feedback, because that would have been important for us to kind of, change things and build a platform that will be valuable to our members. So the way we got feedback, multiple ways. We actually did surveys. So we sent surveys out to members, prospects, leads, asking various questions around, car renting, whether or not have you ever rented a car? Do you have a car that you wanted to rent? So we asked a lot of questions, which got a lot of feedback. We also did some Facebook Live sessions, and some of the people who actually ventured onto the website gave us a few feedback with a few things. So that was good. And I personally actually called people who signed up just to hear, what they had to say in person. So those were just some of the ways that we got feedback, which was very helpful and kind of shaped how we got to the next level.
I'd like to also add something. Oftentimes when you're in talks, especially as a startup thinking about your MVP, you'll hear two sort of contradictory trains of thoughts, right? Some people will tell you that, hey, you have to listen to everything your customer says, your client says, and build what they want. And then other people will tell you, your clients often don't exactly know what they want. And so you have to guide them to what they actually want. Like, for example, in schools, certain schools will say, oh, we really want to focus on individualized attention to a single student at the time. And then you build them a platform where even something as simple as entering grades, you have to go into that individual student and add the grades one by one. And you realize, you know, they want this and this is important, but when report time comes around, you need to be able to give them a view where they can put in, kind of like how their grade book is, a class view. So my point here is that you might hear things that sound contradictory, but it's really important to learn from multiple resources, do your research out there on how to handle customers and how to handle your product development, and then find that middle ground. There are times when you can communicate with your client, hey, I think this is a better solution. You work it out with them. The way I approach it, the way we approach it at Smart Term is we think about the problems, we listen to our clients, we think about the problems they're having, and we come up with a solution. So we're always in a meeting with a proper solution in mind, but then we also listen and iterate and adapt as is necessary, and that helps with your product direction a lot.
Yeah, I love what you said there. That resonates with me a lot. I think the other thing that I would like to add to that is that perfectionism is a childhood trauma response, and you have to be able, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to let that go. You have to be able to grow up and understand that whatever you put out, it doesn't have to be perfect, because you exist on the planet in that moment to create something of value for the other inhabitants of the planet. And that's the same thing that I also had to go through. You know, I had a failed startup before, so I kind of learned some of that. But when you have something that's not just right, you know, you want to hold on to that, but then you end up majoring in minors, and in a sense, what you're doing is stealing that value away from someone else. And I love what you said about that feedback. Feedback is really important. Most of us what they want. What they know is what they don't want. What they know is what they don't want. And understanding how to give them what they want from what they don't want requires a lot of intuition. And some can get data. It's important to trust your gut. And if you have the habit of not trusting it and always being anxious, then you're going to stymie your own project. So I'm the build the parachute as a falling type person. I don't think you have to be that person, but definitely you're awesome, and you need to move forward to the goal.
Fail forward, right?
Yeah, totally
exactly. Fail forward, yeah.
Totally agree with what you're saying, Keston. Perfection does not exist, and the sooner you can get that out of your head, the better it will be for you. Thankfully, I have never been the type to focus on being a perfectionist. I just want to get started and keep going. So when we launched our MVP, the amount of problems that it had, but it was unreal. But we always maintained an extremely high level of transparency with our customers, which are small vendors, and they knew that we were a startup where we're now starting the journey, and so they would give us feedback as time went along once we maintained transparency and a high level of service. And it's surveys, it's calls, it's a lot of calls with just to hear about their experience, and then your aim as a service provider is to just ensure that experience just keeps getting better and better. But perfection doesn't exist. I will be improving until I die. So
touching on perfectionism, I know, something we don't talk about enough as founders is, the emotions tied to your product, right? Like, you pour a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into building this product, into building this MVP. And then sometimes you get to the market, you get to this MVP point, and you find out this thing that you love so much, your baby, people don't necessarily want it, or they don't want it in the way that you think that they wanted it, right? So how do you deal with the changes and challenges that come with building an MVP and releasing a product to the market? When you find out, oh, this product suite that we built out, people don't want it in that way, and we have to pivot a different direction. How do you kind of accept that, even though, you poured a lot into building it as it?
That's a tough question.
I wanted to add something to your question, because sometimes you build the product you want, the one you love, And you do find clients who love it exactly how it is. But then when you're trying to actually go to market and scale, you realize the people who think exactly like you and love it exactly like you are like 1 out of 100. So you still have to kind of think about pivoting, or you have to do an assessment and see if your niche is enough to support you. And I think that's the kind of approach you have to take. You have to listen to your customer feedback. Sometimes you do have to make decisions about what you're going to stick with and what you won't stick with. But at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind that you're trying to build a company. The company, you have to grow, you have to be sustainable. And by doing those things, you can eventually also, maybe the problem you're solving is actually the problem that people need solved, but it's not the problem they need to solve right now. We want to use AI to help students improve in learning and teaching outcomes, for example, right? And when we went to the schools, we realized, boy, most of these schools are still using filing cabinets. Like, we could sell them an AI solution that they wouldn't be able to use because all their data is physical. So okay, let's get school digital first. That's what Ken got to I said. That's all the problems people actually have, and keep your ideas on a roadmap. It might be that is your game changer, but it's not relevant right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I don't believe that you should get attached to your product or the current iteration of your product. What is something that you should maintain in your line of sight is the reason that you started the entire thing in the first place. And because the roadmap is going to go in directions that you would have never dreamed of. You build your iteration based on what how you believed you would get to that realization of that end goal, and then reality slaps you in the face. But once you keep the end goal in mind, then just meander on through.
Yeah, nothing to add there. I just, the part that stands out to me is the part when you get that, there's this idea that everything is fun and games until you get punched in the mouth. Everything's okay, and no plan survives first contact with the enemy. I remember when I put out Allegory into the world, I've got lots of customers at first, and then we made that plan to go to digitization. So we had the process down really, really good, and the technique was down. So when there was time to digitize or to do digital transformation, okay, we had the process down, but what we didn't realize was it's very difficult to copy the human element into a computer. It's very hard. So what ended up happening was I got very product centric, and I lost my customer interest. Now that I was corrected very quickly, because people say, hey, I'm upset, I want my money back. That's happened to me. That's happened to me, I think, like once or twice. And that hurt. That really, really hurt. So that was one of those things that I think is important to know, that there's no negative that can happen to your business apart from it dying. And once you're alive, it probably isn't going to. There's no negative. By that I mean everything is an opportunity to learn and to climb from. Because what those customers actually did in leaving was make us sensitive to gaps that we had. So we lost, let's say we lost 50 US, but it's going to save us in the future millions. So I think, especially in this stage, it's important to, as Nikolai said, transition through the experience of your startup almost dispassionately, respecting that it is its own entity, and it's becoming outside of your hands as much as it is in your hands. Nikolai, I hope I represent what you said. They're good.
I definitely echo everything that the guys have mentioned. One key trait I think that an entrepreneur must have in doing anything in business is you have to be agile, right? And so you have to be able to change on the fly. You can't be stuck to one idea or one process. You have to change with how the market reacts to your new product, the feedback you're receiving. You have to be able to change. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we come into startups trying to solve a problem that we think we're having. And so we kind of focus on how we perceive that problem and how we think that problem should be solved versus trying to address the problem our audience is having. So I think having that agility will definitely help in the long run.
Now, we got about 5 minutes left. So I want to spend this last 5 minutes just kind of closing out with tips and tools. Honestly, like actual tools that you kind of use to go to market with your MVP, right? Because a lot of times we don't, once we get that product, we don't know what the management of, introducing a product to people is like. Were there any tools from, data analytics to, email blasting tools to survey tools that you use that were, helpful to you that you might want to share with other entrepreneurs on the call, as well as any closing advice that you'd like to just give in general. So I don't know who'd like to go first, but yeah, we love to hear your closing thoughts.
Okay, I guess I'll go quickly. I can get us out of the way. So I have ADD, so I'd recommend to people get something that helps you to track your activities. Like Trello is a great tool for that, and also a place to write down all of your ideas, because oftentimes we tend to be highly creative, so it's like that, it's sparkly. I think it's important to have that. I think another very important thing to have is people in your network to talk about your ideas, so you get some time to think outside of your head. That's a soft thing. Hopefully there's somebody in your life that you can do that with. I think that's really important. Honestly, those are the main things that I use. And then people trust. I know you asked for specific tools, but the soft skills, and my background is in neuroscience and psychology, so that emphasis is there for me. But trust is important. But the most place that you must have trust is with yourself. I don't expect that from other people. They can trust you, but if they don't trust you, your business will fail. So those would be things I would submit. That's my closing message.
I would.
I think for me, I'll
go ahead.
Sorry, Nicola. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about the support network. I'm a mother of 4, and so my time is, I'm super busy, right? And so for me, having that support network was very important during the time when I was launching the MVP. There were days when I had little sleep, little to eat. And so having that support network, to whether it's to buy food or to make sure that I'm eating correctly, on time, that went a very, very, very long way for me. And so the support network and having that community of people that you can just tap into, knowing that they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to answer the questions that you need answered, that was super, super important for me.
I'm just going to say, what helps in our business is, as Amanda said, automating certain aspects. So automated emails for anything that is transactional and deserves an email to go out to a customer, or to a customer, which are both customers, is integral. That saves a lot of time and adds a lot of efficiency to your business. And to build on Keston's point and Sherry's point, to be honest, is to find a complementary partner. In my specific case, it was a complementary co-founder that doesn't think the same way I do, but the way he thinks and the way he operates complements Sphere's operations tremendously. And also being part of TBR's, it was cohort 2 that I was a part of, being part of TBR's cohort 2 give us extremely simple but highly implementational tools. The first lesson was something called OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. And that's an extremely simple metric that you can use to guide the growth of your system, of your startup. It's not technological, it's all intrinsic based on your targets, and it gets you a system to put things down and execute along the way. And that was one of the main takes I took from TBR. The entire cohort, the entire program was exceptional, but that really got us to thinking in a different way, which has been quite beneficial to date for Sphere. So that's what I would say that you can try to implement in your day.
I guess I'll talk about analytics since we didn't go there, but analytics tools that we really like. Google Analytics is good. Mixpanel is good. Tool like Segment is great, and I think has free tiers for you to bring all your data in one place and get a read on what your clients are actually doing. Of course, their feedback is important because you want to know what they have to say, but you also want to know functionally with your MVP where people are actually spending a lot of time, what kind of, where are they sticking and why are they sticking there, or where are they dropping off and why are they dropping off there. So be data driven.
Thank you, everyone. Well, we look forward to seeing all the new MVPs that may come out of this call and this panel. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking out the time to be here with us today. And everyone have a great one. Enjoy the next session.
Thank you, Amanda. And as we get into the next session, I just want to share once again, all the entrepreneurs you're hearing from are people who have participated in the TBR Lab program. I think that last group was interesting, just based on even what Nikolai just mentioned about learning from the program. We tend to say to everyone that tech companies are very different to build than traditional businesses, of course. And so there's a different type of learning required. And sometimes, what is on offer may seem simple, but extremely helpful because these are measures and approaches that people have built over decades in terms of how you can create success in this space. So as simple as OKRs, for example, are, they really add a lot of value in terms of understanding and thinking and how to build a company in a really measured and formulated manner, right? I think every startup that we just heard from is in a space where they're almost having to, I tend to say, start at the beginning, which is the work that really TechBeach and TBR aims to do. We've always taken an approach that says, the ecosystem isn't as developed as we would like it to be. And therefore, we have to create these different layers that exist in other markets that ultimately are required in order for people to be successful in this space, right? So we aim to put all of that together so that startups can find success in their journey, right? So we, as I said just now, we focus on starting at the beginning, not at the end, because it's great to hear an idea like Turo. For example, when you listen to someone like Cherie, it's great to look at an idea like Turo, but when you start to try to build it in the Caribbean, you start to find all the gaps that exist that you ultimately then have to try and build in, right? And I guess that's the example that I could give, something like Allegory and Nikolai's company, etc. These entities don't exist yet in the region. So it's not like you're just building a mimic of something that's already there. You're ultimately having to go deep and really try to create a lot of the different foundational elements that make a business like that work. And that's really equally the challenge and the opportunity of the Caribbean. We've seen it firsthand with TechBeach. So, one of the people that helps us to support startups to see that vision come through, and companies, but I do have to say people because she has been such a passionate champion of TechBeach and TBR Lab, is Yamil Bustamante from Microsoft, right? And so once again, another large global tech company. Microsoft has delivered in the, I'm going to just say, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of support, credit, and resources, Yamil, to startups in the program. You would have heard from Medal earlier, who them alone got about $120,000 in value from Microsoft. And we continue to create the gateways for a company like Microsoft to identify these organizations, sift through where the value may sit, and then solidify a partnership. So Yamil, thank you for joining us. We'd just love to hear some words from you in terms of how Microsoft looks at supporting startups and the partnership with TBR Lab.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I love this. And just for what I have heard so far, while I didn't jump on early on, but I have been here for about half an hour or so, and I loved what I heard. And I think that at TechBiz retreat, the value of partnering with Microsoft just for moments like this is just absolutely invaluable. This is what I need. This is what we need within Microsoft and within Caribbean. We know about the opportunity. We know about how many entrepreneurs. We know about the ideas. We know about the drive in the region. But only when we get in connection with groups of persons like these entrepreneurs, we really understand. I start seeing really and truly why this that we have to keep working within Caribbean. So TechBiz retreat has been our pillar when it comes to Microsoft working towards to identifying and getting closer to the sector. No? I remember the first we spoke. I remember all the discussions we had and the passionate I were. And he says that I'm passionate, guys. He and Kyle, they are very passionate, and Eric. And I remember having the conversations to say that's exactly what we want. And what we want is just to get access to this, to the group of entrepreneurs that we know that we can support. I am the small and medium business director for Microsoft Caribbean, and that's it is all. Entrepreneurs, 99% of entrepreneurs will start their idea and they will go into a small business, turning their idea into a small business and will start growing and growing and growing. It's because of partners like TechBiz Retreat, and in this case, just because like TechBiz Retreat, that we get to know you. We get to understand, we get to hear the feedback. Where do we need to help you more? What is happening? How can we support you? Kurt just mentioned that we have been given worth of credit and funding to support the entrepreneurs. And what I think that one of the biggest challenges that we are having is that a lot of people don't know that. If we were never linked with TechBiz Retreat, we could not have get our word out there. We wouldn't have the level of success that we are having. We are starting seeing into the play that we are running, it's called Digital Native Universe. We wouldn't see that success. So we want to make sure that it is understood where we are standing, and we are here to support. We know that one of the key pillars for any person who has an initiative, an entrepreneur, you're planning something, you have a big idea, or you have a small idea that can turn to a big idea, is just how can technology support you? I'm here. We are here. How can we support you? And it's not only, it's about how can we support you in growing your business? How can we support you in being known outside, locally, wherever you are, expanding geographically? How can we support you to keep up with the technology and start applying every single step of the way the things that will be make your business better? So that's where the initiatives and the products and the programs that Microsoft has can come and help you. My first step is just to get in contact with you guys. My first step is just to work with TechBiz Retreat so we can keep creating awareness about the different things that we are doing. We can keep telling you that we have a Microsoft Founders Hub program that is coming soon to Caribbean that would allow you. We have dropped a little bit, we have dropped a lot. I will say the qualifying criteria, so there will be way more access to. There's a big bucket of money that you can access for credits using in our platform, funding for many things, access to technical resources. One thing that I have learned is that sometimes it's very difficult, and that's a feedback. It's very difficult to understand with who you're going to be talking on Microsoft. How can you get technical support? How can you present your plan or have your company have your entrepreneurship or your idea running and having someone that can give you guidance? The fact that we work through partners, yes, we have a lot of partners that solution partners that can support, but having someone that you know at Microsoft or having contact directly with Microsoft or being part of the Microsoft initiative, it adds a plus. So, and this is why we feel, and I want to openly say that partner with TechBiz Retreat has been one of the best things that we have done in the last couple of years or so that we have been working together because of the access that we have gotten, the awareness that we're able to create, and the success that we have. Right now, we are working with over 34 potentials, I would say, entrepreneurs, ideas, initiatives, companies, you call it. I don't want to even put a name so you don't feel like, oh no, I'm not part of it. Yes, some of them are way advanced with revenues reporting and all the resources. Some of others are just starting with an idea. Of course, it depends where you are in the process. We will be able to do one thing on the other one, but for sure, we would like to have a conversation with you. And it's using Tech Beach retreats, events, innovation labs that we are getting to present this. And so this is part of what we're doing. I would love, coming out of this, I would love for anyone who is interested in knowing more to contact us. I'm gonna drop my email address so you can reach out to us. We can actually guide you more. We can help you to build. We can help you, as I said, to grow your business. And it's not only to grow your business, you're probably thinking to grow your business, as I said, locally. No, we are talking about the marketplace. We are talking about helping you, how others can help, can get to know you and can just become part of your customer base. So as I said, very delighted to be here. And the more I hear, the more I consider that we are in the right place and at the right moment. Thank you all for your attention. And again, as I said, I'm looking forward to continue having conversations with all of you, to present more of what we are doing, to help you to understand how can we support you, and to put on the table everything that we have, with the challenges, with the feedback, with the learnings that we are having, and getting all of us better at what we do. It's not only you, it's us too, because we are learning with you guys, definitely. Kirk, I don't know if I left anything out. I don't know if you were expecting me to say anything else. The reality is that when I heard things with the previous panel, I went like, oh my God, I did love what I heard. And I think that is absolutely amazing. And we want to be with you every single step of the way with the guys. Okay.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, Yamil. And we truly appreciate the endorsement, and naturally we appreciate the partnership. Microsoft has been a long-standing partner of not just the lab program that we have, but Tech Beach overall. And just for everyone who's listening in to understand, at the end of the day, a large organization like Microsoft, with the footprint that it has, and we usually use it as an example, Microsoft is one of only 2 of the world's biggest tech companies that actually have presence in terms of offices in the Caribbean. But the reality is there are a lot of objectives, goals that are being trying to be met. And just like any business, you can only reach to so many people. So companies like Microsoft really rely on us to kind of sift through the noise to whatever extent and identify value in, not just value, but potential. Because when you talk about startups, the reality is it's unproven value typically that someone then has to look at and try to decide, is this going where I need it to go in order for me to ultimately benefit and my organization benefit, and then dive in and support. So we provide that safe space where organizations or startups go through a process that helps them to be prepared for the conversations with our partners like Microsoft, MasterCard, you heard from earlier today, AWS, Visa, etc. Right? And there are many. Over $600,000 in resources are provided by the TBR LAB program to entrepreneurs, and they've been taking advantage of it. So we're good to join or go into our last session, which will be hosted by my co-founder of Tech Beach and TBR LAB, Kyle Maloney. And Kyle, I'll allow you to just dive in and do all your intros, etc. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, Kirk. So this session really gets to the perspective of the people that support the overall ecosystem in how we've made the progress where we are today, and them really buying into the vision of where we can be, the transformation that can take place across the Caribbean. And when I begin thinking about the leaders of the ecosystem and the real drivers of the ecosystem, each of these players here hold their own weight. But naturally, there's a significant player within the ecosystem that we know that we have to give kudos to, and the work that they're doing across the region. And I'll give way to Irene to introduce herself and us begin the session in that way. Thank you, Irene, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see you, Kyle and Kirk, and great to see Anya and several others that I know here, and hello to everyone who's here with us today virtually. I'm the CEO of IDB Lab, the innovation laboratory of the Inter-American Development Bank, and we are part of the IDB group. We work alongside the public arm and IDB Invest, the private arm. Our job at IDB Lab as the third entity under the umbrella of the group is to take risk that is difficult for the other two parts to take, and to work more directly with entrepreneurs to really provide from very, very early on seed capital, prototype ideation, all the way to equity, to startups, and support to ecosystem players and accelerators like great partners at TechBeach, to see the immense talent and innovation potential that the region has really come to life. And so very happy to be here and interacting with all of you.
All right, excellent. Next, I'd like Anya to introduce herself and share a little bit about the work Nudge does in supporting the ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Kyle. My name is Anya Ayangchi. I am the co-founder of Nudge Caribbean. Please let me know if you're hearing me, because I'm in Barbados and I don't necessarily have the best Wi-Fi at the moment. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. Great to see you as well, Irene and Lisa, and lots of other collaborators. Nudge Caribbean is a social enterprise that is supporting micro and small enterprises across the Caribbean. And we have partnered with TBR Lab on several different things. One of them being, of course, the accelerator. We've had, I think, 8 companies from the Nudge Caribbean community go through the accelerator and have had tremendous feedback from that program. And Nudge actually also attended the accelerator because we are growing in parallel with our community as an early stage organization. We have had support as well from the CDB, and we're very grateful for that partnership too. And we are working in addition to the accelerator programs, Coursera courses, and an SME bootcamp from TBR Lab. They have helped us to figure out how to scale our capacity building and education programming that has been piloted over the last 2 years in the 3 islands that we are currently working in, Barbados, Trinidad, and St. Lucia. And with Kyle and, of course, Kirk's assistance, and as well as Kyle's other parallel business first, we are translating our capacity building and education program into an online learning management system that we are using to develop and expand the services that we are providing to make sure that the entrepreneurs have a very Caribbean-centric aggregates of entrepreneurial tools, which we have recognized over the 2 years of piloting the Nudge programs is very, very necessary. So we're thrilled to have TBR Lab partnership. We could not do it without you guys.
Thank you, Anya. So next, Lisa, can you go ahead and share with us some of the work that you guys are doing as it relates to the ecosystem?
Sure. Thank you, Kyle. My name is Lisa Harding. I am the coordinator for micro, small, and medium enterprise development at the Caribbean Development Bank. And really, really pleased to be here. I've really learned a lot this morning and really excited by the passion and commitment of the entrepreneurs that would have spoken so far. At the CDB and within my team, we really focus on, I would say, 3 main areas. I think for private sector development to flourish, we can't ignore the regulatory and enabling environment. It's not the sexy topic, but it's the pillar and the foundation for which business can survive and thrive. And here I'm speaking about the ease of doing business. I know some, especially startups in tech, have tremendous difficulties, sometimes just navigating the bureaucracies and the timelines involved in getting off the ground. So we are doing quite a bit of work there in terms of supporting the enabling environment. And one of our key areas of focus is that surrounding access to finance. So just to share quickly, we are involved in a project with JIPO in Jamaica to collateralize intellectual property, which I think will be very relevant for the audience here today. Training valuers, sensitizing MSMEs about the, how to value their IP, and working with the financial institutions who would then incorporate the valuation of IP in their credit assessments or, on financial transactions, which I think is actually could be a good game changer as we move forward. Taking that into consideration, given the fact that, it's not always about bricks and mortar businesses anymore, and these services industries are driving the future. We're also exploring alternative investment options like crowdfunding. We're working with the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulation Commission in providing a framework and guidelines for crowdfunding, because again, there are non-traditional sources of finance, but we need to get the right structures in place as well for the safety of not only the MSMEs, but the investors as well. In addition to that, we work with providing capacity building of MSMEs, mainly through a lot of training programs, et cetera. And we also provide institutional strengthening of what we call business enablers. So business support organizations, chambers of commerce, et cetera. And all of that is really, you know, leveraged within partnerships, which is where the last presentation ended. We can't do this alone. And we are, you know, we want to collaborate with, you know, other players in the ecosystem. Nudge is here as one of our partners, a recent partner with CDB. And of course, we've partnered with TBR from a way back, I think from 2017 with the Tech Beach retreats. We did supported some entrepreneurs to participate on 2 occasions. We've done some work with CTech, which was another tech-oriented program to support startups. And again, we just generally are, you know, of course, we also have a focus on the creative and cultural industries, again, because we recognize the intersections they also play in supporting MSME development. So there's a lot more to say, but I'm going to pause because we have a full panel.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot so much for that, Lisa. You gave us a very, very broad perspective and understanding of the breadth of work that is being done at the CDB. I want to give away now to Chris from the DBJ. Chris is here to introduce himself and share a bit on the work that DBJ is doing to support the innovation ecosystem.
All right, thanks very much, Kyle. Afternoon again, everyone. Hi, Lisa. So I'm Christopher Brown, General Manager for the Project Management Office at DBJ, and really big supporter of the Tech Beach retreat movement, right? So from summits all the way to where we are seeing it now with your accelerator programs and corporate entrepreneurship programs. All of that has been some good developments that we've seen over the years, and we really want to encourage the team, you and Kirk and the rest of you, to continue doing it, right? So DBJ, again, you know, we promote strengthening the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Jamaica. We've been doing it for a couple of years now, beyond just providing loan financing. We recognize that providing financing alone or loan financing alone isn't the only way to develop this ecosystem. There are a lot more other intangibles to do it, you know, really how businesses operate, how they manage their businesses, how they're able to scale and grow. And therefore, we have stepped into that area for the past 4 years to try and really develop the ecosystem in a more holistic way. So recently, we were really introduced to TBR LAB Accelerator as an accelerator program to help drive and scale and grow these entrepreneurs. And we thought it would have been a very good strategic partnership to join to see how best we can get really access to our Jamaican entrepreneurs to be exposed to these different networks, the mentors, all of the other partners that you mentioned. And I know Kirk keeps talking about the value of services that the beneficiaries in the cohorts are able to get, which under normal circumstances, they wouldn't have been able to pay for it themselves, right? So it really comes as this holistic package to help them grow. So in developing the ecosystem, apart from working with incubators and accelerators, DBJ has a number of different financial products that we are introducing to the Jamaican market. We're currently working on a patenting grant fund. So that's a collaboration which CDB's project in Jamaica can benefit from. Again, many people don't understand the value of your intellectual protection, and you know, sometimes it's just costly for you to be able to protect it in different jurisdictions. So we're working on something to help with that. We also have a number of equity-based solutions that we are bringing to the market. There's a sidecar fund that we're working on jointly with the IDB to really see if we can accelerate the volume of angel investments that are being done in the country. So we'll act as a co-investor alongside the angels, really to get more capital to our entrepreneurs. I'm hoping some of those who participated in your program, Kyle, would be looking forward to trying to raise capital in that particular way.
Sure.
And we also have a venture capital fund, which we are planning to launch later this year, which should be another source of capital for some of the clients coming out of the accelerator program. So, you know, as DBJ really tries to strengthen the ecosystem, we are working with our incubators and our accelerators and these intermediaries, as well as providing a number of different financial solutions or options for the entrepreneurs. So again, really happy to have seen the Jamaican companies throughout the program. I know you guys have, and we've heard it today about some of the successes from the participants in raising capital, in entering new markets. And we really want to encourage you to continue. So we hope DBJ can continue to be there as a partner along the journey. So thanks again.
Yeah, man, Chris. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And to last but not least, I want to give way to our last partner in this conversation, Akil from Unitrust Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago. Akil, please.
Hi, and thanks for having us here. Good afternoon to everyone. And just really, really overwhelmed by what I've seen thus far. I just want to say that to the other panelists. The contributions are inspiring even to us. And trust me, we are putting our foot and all of our efforts into this. The Unitrust Corporation, and just to introduce myself and the role that I play there, I'm the digital strategy manager. But just to give a bit of context, you know, it was really started, if people know what a unit trust is, as creating opportunity. And it was an equalizer of sorts for people who could not invest at a particular time. You know, there was a huge gap, and we found entrepreneurship to be quite a similar tool right now. And we have invested very heavily, you know, as we would say in Trinidad and Tobago, putting our money where our mouth is in this regard. Firstly, launching our own initiatives to really help in terms of impacting the economy by creating, you know, a system that allows our entrepreneurs to thrive, those who may be entrepreneurially minded, to give them a place where they can nurture. So we created a community for them where they can join, they can learn some of the things that we were discussing in the past session, you know, whether it's about your MVP or accessing funding and these types of things. And even for those who are already at a certain stage of success, but are really, you know, overwhelmed as to how do they get to the next level. And we're talking about those who, you know, they're making significant income, but they really want to scale this business and see how they can grow to become the company that they may have dreamt of. And we really see how these things can impact not just the individuals themselves, but our economy in terms of our country and the Caribbean economy at large, particularly when we think of the impact of the digital economy and just what is the opportunity that's there for us as a Caribbean community right now. Secondly, we would have done a lot of direct partnerships and continue to do so. We're working on quite a few right now, where we actually work directly with some of these companies that may have gone past the startup stage, you know, and currently have achieved some level of success in terms of building out that digital economy and partnering, working with them directly as clients and as partners. And lastly, through initiatives like this, I'm a really, really big fan personally of Tech Beach, which Kyle is very familiar. He's very, very, very aware of this, right? But there's a reason for that. And it really aligns with our ideals as a company, Unitrust, that is, where it provides something that there was a real gap in the market. And there was something that was a very, very sore pain point for entrepreneurs. We have no shortage of ideas. We have no shortage of intelligent people in the Caribbean, but there was definitely a huge gap in terms of helping to nurture great ideas into becoming excellent companies. And Tech Beach does that. They make it look easy, but you know, there's quite a lot going on, and we've seen evidence of that here today. So for us, Tech Beach is one of those sponsorships that we really value that partnership because we consider it will be a huge missed opportunity to not contribute to something that we believe is going to shift the Caribbean community's future. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, Akil. Thank you. I couldn't pay you enough to give such a beautiful endorsement. So to really kind of get a bit of the session started, in terms of the conversation going, I want to come back to Irene here, as she gets like a broad view of both Latin America and the Caribbean. And you know, us in the Caribbean, we tend to fall into like a afterthought conversation, unfortunately. But given your broad experience, Irene, and seeing each of the markets, what are some of the things that you're seeing that you might be a bit excited about coming out of the region that gets you saying, listen, don't forget these guys, something interesting is happening here. Let's continue to support, let's continue to find ways to really help accelerate the potential that we're seeing here?
Well, first, the region as a whole, and we operate in the 26 countries and put a lot of emphasis in our program in the Caribbean. But the region as a whole, as you all know, have seen a tremendous growth, in terms of attracting investments in early stage ventures in the past 18 months, and it's achieved kind of record highs, and now more than 25 unicorns have emerged, including from smaller countries across the region. So I think that's a positive overall in terms of validating that Latin America and the Caribbean as a whole is able to take this industry forward. It would still have to at least double its size to even approach, in terms of relative to GDP, what other emerging markets have in terms of venture industry. So there is huge space and need for all of us to work together still to move it forward. But it has really grown tremendously. And what we've seen that still, though, 80% is concentrated in Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, and in verticals as well. I mean, most of it is concentrated in marketplaces, fintech, and SaaS. And one of the advantages that I see in a lot of the entrepreneurial talent that you are nurturing and it's coming out of the Caribbean is that both in those already over-invested verticals, you still need to understand the local context to apply some of these solutions. So there is room for some applications of those successes in digital payments, for example, etc., particularly in the countries that are deploying a more coherent digital strategy. So you have some good foundation that makes digital businesses grow faster, like, for example, national digital ID, etc., or deployment of digital wallets and so on. But there are also other verticals, education, digital health, and other that are totally underinvested, even though we've seen a big growth because there was practically nothing before with the pandemic, especially in digital health and digital education. It's still less than 3% of the total, and there's still and that, I think, that it presents an advantage for entrepreneurs in the Caribbean that come up with models that could, if you think globally from the beginning, could solve the digital divide and the needs for digital skills, digital health solutions, not just in the Caribbean, but also elsewhere in the world. And I think in that sense, the partnership that TBR has with DMZ, for example, for the acceleration program and thinking global from the start, could provide that bridge. We saw it even during these last few months when during the pandemic, we did the open call for innovative solutions to address the medical emergency, and Medley, the company from Trinidad and Tobago, applied, and this prototype was supported by IDB Lab, and this company is now taking off, and thanks to you also with the support in the digital health space. So I think we're seeing examples, and I'm very excited about the potential.
Yeah, excellent. I think once again that gave us a lot of good perspective, and narrowing down on that health tech aspect. I think there's significant opportunity there, and it's an interesting stat that only 3% capital is being deployed in that space. And I think that us being able to build capacity in that area, I think there's significant opportunity for us to be able to shoot outsized versus the size that we are in terms of the impact that we can have on the global stage. I wanna bring Anna into the conversation a little bit in terms of what are some of the things that you're seeing, given, I guess, the number of conversations that you're a part of, that inspire you as to where we're heading as a region, and how we can continue to have some of that outsized impact that people kind of underestimate us. And when I speak about the region, I generally speak about the English-speaking Caribbean, given my sort of bias being from Trinidad, right? So you, Anya, give me some context as well, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, also I have sort of a bias with the English-speaking Caribbean, so I'll speak to that. That's also where Nudge is working, particularly because our primary partner is Massey, which of course is a Caribbean conglomerate that has footprints in primarily the English-speaking Caribbean. And so I would say through the lens of Nudge, where a lot of our focus is on nurturing and sort of bolstering micro and small enterprises, but as well high impact entrepreneurs who have a look towards environmental and social impacts, even through their micro impact in their communities and on the environment. We're definitely seeing this incredibly inspiring focus of even the small businesses on I guess, you know, their mini version of ESG, their micro impacts on social impacts and environmental impacts. So I think that is something to really pay attention to, maybe not necessarily in the same context as what Irene was speaking of that sort of global mindset from the start, but in fact, maybe more of a groundswell upwards of how small businesses can have an impact on their micro communities, and how that, I guess, collectively has an impact across the region. That's the big bet that we're banking on, while also investing in high impact entrepreneurs who, you know, have the potential to at scale impact their environment and their community positively. So Nudge being, you know, our main mantra is mindfully made. That's one of our primary sort of screening components. So that does lead our perspective tremendously. But if I put on another hat as an entrepreneur myself, as director and founder of a fashion technology brand called Wildflower, that has a social impact arm as well, with support from the IDB, that we are developing a women's livelihood initiative in Trinidad with Venezuelan migrants and local women. The Wildflower brand has seen over the last year tremendous growth in the Web3 space. We've had a lot of opportunity to sort of, you know, leverage NFTs and digital fashion in a way that's, because of COVID, we pivoted massively in the last 24 months. And I think that there is a space that I personally see a lot of potential. I'm super excited for what the Caribbean can do to place our own footprints in this very controversial metaverse space. But as a practitioner already, I can see the community-led aspect, the decentralized autonomous organization aspect, the potential of this Web3 mentality, and working collaboratively across the entire region with, you know, really skilled Caribbean people to not wait for this opportunity to come to us. We're really grabbing it by the horns, and I'm seeing a lot of potential in that space. So really excited there too.
Excellent. That last piece is really what I wanted you to speak to, you know, you got it. And because I'm seeing the community that's building across the region within the Web3 decentralized finance world. And I understand that the potential that is there for us to really continue to begin having those sort of outsized sort of levels of impact, whereby people who would not have expected us to play our role in the space, we begin just emerging as like, listen, cultural leaders and leveraging our cultural capital to really go onto the world stage and drive value for the region in ways that they would have not calculated before. So, you know, so I want to give space as well to Chris and Lisa. Tell me some of the things that are exciting you, like some of the things that you think are innovative that are happening in the region that people would not necessarily may not have heard about. Lisa, you can go first.
Okay, thanks again, Kyle. I mean, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of innovation, I think, going on in the space. But as you said, it's some of it is buried. It's almost like, if you know, you know, right? But just to follow on from Anya, I want to zero in a little bit here in terms of the cultural and creative industries, because I think that is a sector that has been, I mean, it's such an integral part of our lives as Caribbean people, right? And it is so, it's a part of who we are. But for so many years, it has not been fully exploited, and you still have so many practitioners who have not been able to translate the talent and their art in a monetary way to really generate wealth and create, impact businesses. However, that is, I think, changing now. And again, I'm seeing a lot of intersections, and technology is driving that transformation. And there's a new cadre of entrepreneurs in this space as well, who are bringing a very fresh and innovative outlook to the cultural and creative industries in itself. But those kind of intersectionalities between, as I said, technology, focus on social and environmental issues, intersectoral linkages. So you're having, creatives involved not only in tourism, which was traditional, but now actually are the blueprint behind corporate big conglomerates by social media and marketing and the digitalization of what they're doing in terms of advertising and so on. So in my view, I think that is a sector that I think is showing a lot of growth. They are also getting a lot more support, as I said, across the sector, including financial support as well. And I would like to see that some additional efforts be placed in doing that. The CDB's Cultural and Creative Industries Innovation Fund has certainly done a lot within the last 3 years to help to create and build that ecosystem, including communities of practice and also knowledge products, because that is really central. And sharing, I think the whole thing about collaboration is what is going to get us over the mark. I'll just leave it over to Chris now.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So as Lisa said, there are a number of verticals that we're seeing things. Irene made mention of education and health. I think those two spaces, there are a number of entrepreneurs working with some really cool things. As in, we've supported 2 companies on the education side that are, really bringing wider access to these solutions, right? Jamaica is not necessarily new, as in there have been people in the space, but I'm seeing a lot more in the space now because, as Irene mentioned, it's undertapped, right? There's a lot more potential for more solutions given where we are, and this is something that again can really be expanded to the region. So that's really a good one. I think data analytics is something that they have been, I know Adrian earlier from Star Apple was talking about his company, and I'm seeing more and more firms in that particular space, which again, it can be a competitive space globally. I think in the Caribbean, we probably don't have as much. So again, there's huge potential and opportunity for those firms to work in that particular area. So I'll just leave it at those two, Kyle, that we really want to see more entrepreneurs enter in the space, but right now you have a number of them that are doing some really nice things.
Amazing. Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Chris. Just to give room, Akil, do you have any thoughts on some of the wins that you're seeing happening that are exciting you across the innovation ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. Anya, I couldn't hold back the smiles when Anya and Lisa were speaking there, because what I would say is that we usually benefit in the Caribbean from this one thing where we can see a proof of concept, and because we're just a few years away sometimes, because we may not have the underlying infrastructure, whether it be credit card penetration, etc. A lot of startups in the past would have had the luxury of, okay, they might be able to use a software as a service as their minimum viable product, because this is something that existed already for some time in more advanced markets. However, Web3 is different. And the reason for this is that I think in two particular spaces, that creative cultural aspect, there's so much opportunity for us there as a Caribbean people. And I think because it has come at a point where a lot of our talent who would lead the development of these new products and businesses, they're quite talented already. They're upskilled and they're ready to go. We're not going to be years behind the other countries in this regard. And another thing is digital trust. It was really difficult. You couldn't be the first PayPal coming out of the Caribbean from a country that on a certain corruption index, you're ranked a bit high. So this is quite different for us. We're getting a really, really solid chance to lead and to actually birth out of the Caribbean. I mean, we do have a few unicorns that have happened, right? But to birth out of the Caribbean, something that may become a world-changing product, and that excites me a whole lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Akil. Yeah, so I think bringing together this group of people that really has a broad perspective on what some of the things that are happening across the region and our neighbors next door, Latin America, really helps to give us an understanding and excite us about what is to come and the direction where we're going. I told some people just last week at a lunch we had in Miami that the Caribbean right now is like buying Bitcoin at $1. I know things are about to happen in a significant way, and it's about to be transformational and have significant impact in the region within the next 10 years. And we want the people in the room to be part of that transformation and not miss out on the shift that is already occurring and is about to significantly occur. And join us on this mission to really get to that place that we see as significantly transformative. So I want to thank each of the people on this panel who have been partners with us over the last few years, and we know that they're going to continue to partner with us as we make significant strides into the future. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you more so for continuing to support the innovation ecosystem across the region through the work that we're doing and through individually your own work, because together, us working together is what really is going to have that impact that we really want to have. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
No problem. All right. I'm passing over to Eric. Eric, yeah.
So with that, the day comes to an end. I think it was an amazing day. Let me make sure everybody can see me. Good. Can you see me? Someone give me a thumbs up or a wave in the chat. Okay, there we go. Thank you, sir. So yeah, I think today was just an amazing day. Very honored to be here. I'm honored to be the one to address the group at closing. I had a few notes that I was going to say, but just throughout the course of the day, all of the positive feedback, all of the partners that we heard from, all of the startups, just kind of forced me back to something that we opened the day with. When Nick Thomas, executive at MasterCard, co-founder of Finicity, said about his $1 billion exit and receiving a phone call, and he had a choice to make, right? After making all that money, you choose either service or consumption, right? And I think there's a lot of value in that question and that statement. And I think that, as we look around the region to build the ecosystem together, I feel like a lot of us have already bought into the service. And, we start with MasterCard. We had speakers from AWS, from Visa, from Microsoft, And then, you know, the panel that we just ended with, IDB, CDB, DBJ, Nudge, UTC, like all of these partners around the table with the same mission of building and growing the ecosystem in the Caribbean. It's just such a powerful thing. And we appreciate everyone taking the time out to spend the day with us to do that. The last thing that I want to say, and I'll let everybody get back to their day, is that you heard from quite a few startups today that have gone through the TBR Lab Accelerator program. A lot of them have seen some success, you know, pre-program, during program, after program. They've raised money, they've grown their revenue. And we just at TBR Lab want to continue that trajectory. And we are now opening up applications for the third cohort of the TBR Lab Accelerator program. So we had 2 cohorts in 2021, one in the spring and one in the fall. And we're going to repeat the same thing this year. So now, as of today, we're opening up the applications for the third cohort. I know there's a lot of aspiring founders and entrepreneurs on the call today in the summit that we would encourage you to apply. You can visit the website techbeach.net. That's techbeach.net. Across the top, you'll see a tab for TBR Lab. You click on that, and then the first option below that is to apply. Takes you to the website to apply. So again, it is techbeach.net. Go across the top to TBR Lab, click on the drop down, and the first option is to apply. Go there to apply. It'll take you to the portal. And if you've never been there before and haven't registered, there's a link at the bottom that says, you know, register an account. So we encourage everyone here who's interested in the program to go out and do that. If you were here today and you're not a founder and you don't want to take that leap, but you know someone that is, please, we encourage you to reach out. How can you find out more information after today? Is just following us on social media, whether that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll continue to put that information out there. Again, letting you know applications open today. Applications actually closed the last day of February, so February 28th. You have an entire month to get your application together. It's not a daunting application. If you really know your business, it shouldn't take you too much time, but we do encourage everyone to apply, and we do try to give feedback on all applications. So even if you aren't accepted into the program, you at least will get some feedback from some people who have been doing this for quite some time. And we think that learning and continuing to build is very important. So we encourage everyone to apply, don't self-select out. Again, applications close February 28th. We will send out acceptances or denials about mid-March, and then the program will run from early April to early June. So it's an 8-week program that we put all the founders through. Again, I want to close with something that Akil said in the last session, which was today was just overwhelming, all right, with the amount of energy and passion and partners that we had help us today. And again, thank you to Kirk and Kyle for having the vision to put this together, but we couldn't be here without the help of the entire community. So with that, thank you again for attending the first annual TBR Lab Success Summit, and we hope to hear from all of you soon.